So good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us on November the 26th at 9:30 a.m. for the Essential Leadership Skills webinar with Amy Yeates. Today will obviously always be known as the Day of Tears for one reason or another. But hopefully we'll give you some good information, some thought-provoking ideas to go away with about leadership. The first thing we're going to do, before I give you an introduction to the GCMA and what we do, is a quick poll of everyone who's on the call. It's just a question on basically on what you think leadership is about. So, and we'll discuss the answers at the end. So, if I shall launch the poll, and you can pick your what you think is best describes a great leader. So everyone should be able to see that now.
Can you pick more than one, Gavin? No, you just pick the one.
Just the one that you think is the best description of a great leader. Just to get that old grey matter working. If you haven't had your caffeine intake this morning. Getting some interesting results. Yeah, some very good ones, some very good answers. There is no real right or wrong answer with this. There's just better and not so good. Okay, that's 22 of 28. I'll give you another 10 seconds for the last 6 to come in with their votes. Go.
Oh, that's like the Eurovision.
Isn't it? Exciting to start with. Okay, good. All right, so I'll end the polling there, and we shall share the results a little bit later on. So, we're going to start with a brief introduction of the GCMA, who we are and what we're about. I'm going to share my screen with you. So, can everyone see that okay?
Yeah,
good. Okay, so try again. So the GCMA, who are we? The beginnings of the GCMA stretch back to 1933. A group of, as they were known at those times, golf club secretaries banded together in the sort of London Home Counties region, and they formed the Association of Golf Club Secretaries. They've stayed together, they've grown in numbers through that time until in 2007, roughly with a membership of 2,000, they changed the name to the Golf Club Managers Association. A little bit on our memberships, we have full members, we have over 1,000 full members. We also have roughly 350 retired members. So we offer a lot of services to members beyond their working careers, and roughly about 150 affiliate or associate members who are students or aspiring golf club general managers. Some overseas members also. What do? We represent the membership. We represent the membership at the highest level. We have a seat at the top table of golf, if you like. Our CEO sits on the APPGG, which is the all-party parliamentary group for golf, and which has been very influential in months in keeping golf open and hopefully getting it back on the 2nd of December. We also support our memberships through lots of different avenues. We have an e-newsletter which keeps our members informed. We have informal WhatsApp groups in all of the regions. And we also have business partners who help support with your professional needs also. And we aim to educate our members. We aim to keep our members at the cutting edge of the role with all the latest information that they need, to be on top of their game for as long as possible. Why do we do it? Well, we're going to find out a little bit more about why with Amy's presentation, but why do we do it as a Golf Club Managers Association? Well, I think because we love it. We love the role. We've all been general managers. We are an association of general managers, of golf club managers. So we know the role. We love it. We know the influence and the impact that it can have on wider society and the golf industry. So I think that sort of answers that question. And briefly, just a quick plug for our next upcoming course, which is the Principles of Golf Club Management via Zoom. I know there's a couple of people on this call who have done that course. And so thank you for joining us today, Emma, Craig, and a few others. And that's December the 7th to the 11th. And I'll be quite happy to answer any questions on that after Amy's presentation and the Q&A session. And hopefully we'll do a little bit of networking after that as well. So that's enough from me. I shall stop sharing my screen now and hand you over to Amy. Just before we do that, can I ask all of you please to, if you could mute your microphones, just as we get the best possible sound for Amy. So thanks, and over to you, Amy.
Thank you, Gavin. So you're going to stop. Right, okay.
Yeah.
Let's share my screen, see if I can get this going. Great, hurrah, it worked. Okay, so we have got a huge amount of content to get through in a very small amount of time. So please see this as dipping your toe into what is two very big areas. We're going to focus on two things which are very close to my heart, which is Simon Sinek, which is Start With Why. If you haven't read the book, please do so, because pretty much that is what I'm talking about in the first section of this presentation. For those of you who have read the book, please see this presentation as a refresher, as a reminder of what you should be doing and how you should be acting. And then the second half of the presentation is about a book by David Marquette, and it's called Turn the Ship Around. So again, for those people who really want to get a deeper understanding of what we're talking about today, please go ahead and get both of those books, because I know I'm not going to do both topics justice in the 20 or so minutes that I've got, but we will give it a go. So the outcomes of the day, or the sort of the morning, I might click too many times. Okay, no, fine. So the outcomes of the day and the morning is to understand the importance of knowing your why. So this is your personal why, and also your why for your club, because without it, it's going to be really difficult to understand what your purpose is, how to lead, what you're leading. It's going to be really difficult. The second thing is, once you know your why, how to test it. Your third thing then moves into the turn your ship around, which is how to change a culture. We've all been there. We've all started a new job where we've gone in and gone, wow, how the hell are we going to change this around, because it's in the dark ages, or it's stuck in a place it doesn't need to be. And then, as Gavin alluded to, hopefully at the end we'll have 5-10 minutes just to have a bit more of an open chat about career progression for anybody who wants to know more about that, and a Q&A. We would normally do this session in a room. We'd normally get to know each other a bit better. We'd normally exchange business cards at the end and create a really wonderful network. Unfortunately, by the power of Zoom, we're here again, and I'm going to try and keep it as upbeat and as and dynamic as I possibly can, so we don't all get Zoom fatigue. So let's go into it. Great leadership can only begin when you, as in personally, and your club know your why. So as I said, this section is based on a book by Simon Sinek called Start With Why. And he basically looked at, why do some people succeed and some companies succeed when they didn't have the market share, they didn't have the money, they didn't have the backing of the government or anything like that. So why did they succeed when other companies who had all those tick box things of how you'd expect a company to succeed, why did they succeed and these ones didn't? So he started to look at these things. So he looked at the Wrightman brothers, the guys that did the first flight. Why did they succeed? Because they had no money, they had nothing. They looked at Apple, he looked at Apple. He looked at things like Martin Luther King. He wasn't the only guy who was passionate about equality. So how come he kind of ended up being the leader and being such an influential person in the world? So he basically concluded, and he simplified it massively into what he calls the golden circle. And it's basically 3 circles that you can see in front of you. It's why, how, and what. And you can relate this to you as a person, and most importantly to you as a club, because if you're sitting here now thinking, I can't answer those questions for my club or my business, then this is a great starting point for you. And this is one of the big take homes that you've got to be looking at, is answering these questions. So what Simon's basically saying is that the what, which is around the outside, everybody knows. 100% of the people and the clubs around you and yours will know what you do. So it's the things that you do. So we know that we are a golf course. So I'm going to take Moore Park as an example. I know that I've got a golf course, I've got 2, I've got short game facilities, I've got a clubhouse, which is pretty spectacular, I've got tennis courts. So if someone came to me and said, what does Moore Park do? Then I can pretty easily explain that to you, and you'll be able to understand that really, really easily. So the what is relatively easy to understand, and we all do that. The how is, back in the 90s, we all started talking about USPs, and we all started thinking that we're all very, very clever because we know what a USP is, a unique selling point, and this is what sets us apart from the competition, and these are the things that make me different to my neighbor. So for Moore Park, it's the kind of focus on the sort of traditional feel, the grade 1 listed mansion. Maybe we do something a bit different in our breakfast offering. Maybe we invest a huge amount of money in our golf course. So I can say, well, we're the best golf course in the area. We have the best clubhouse, etc., etc. So it's not just your facilities, it's what you think sets you apart from everybody else. The one thing that we never really look at is why we're doing it. And very few organizations, as the slide says, know why you're doing what you're doing. What's your purpose? And what's your belief? Why are you getting up in the morning? And why does your organization even exist? Excuse me. So why does Moore Park exist? Why is it even in the golf industry arena? Why am I bothered about it? And why is anybody else bothered about it? And what Simon Sinek was saying was, the people who succeed basically start in the middle. They start with what they want to believe and what they want to dream, and what they want to get out of the bed in the morning with. So Martin Luther King didn't stand up in his speech saying, I have a plan, and if we follow this 12-point plan with all these different set out things, then we will succeed. He sat out there and said, I have a dream. He sat out there and said, I believe in something. So all of those people turned up to hear his speech in that amazing heat, and 25% of the people there were white. So it wasn't just about being black. They were there, they were listening to him because they believed what he believed. And that's the key with this, is that people buy your product or service because they believe in what you believe. They don't buy your product or service because of what you deliver. So Simon Sinek basically said that you have to start with the why first, and then, because it's quite fuzzy, okay, so Moore Park's why is to enrich members' lives through an exceptional club experience. It's very fluffy, very fuzzy, very difficult actually to then explain, well, what does that mean, So what you then do is, once you understand your why, you use your how and you use your what to make it easier for people to understand. Let's think about the why as your gut feeling. We've all been there interviewing people, right? On paper, you look at a CV and you think, this person's really good. They've had all the experience. You meet them, for whatever reason, your gut feeling says they're not quite the right fit. Whereas someone else comes into the room, not with all the experience and all the tick boxes, and you think, okay, this person gets it. It's because it comes from the why, and it is a certain part of the brain, which again, I won't go into because it's too big of a field, but your why is the reason why people queue up outside of Apple for like 6 hours to get a phone when they could wait a week to get it and just walk in with no hassle at all the week after. So the why is fuzzy. It's very difficult to explain to people, but you have to start there. You have to start right in the middle. Once you then know your why, you can then look at your how. So you go, okay, so let's talk about it from an Apple's point of view. And we'll talk about Apple and their why. But their why is about status, changing the status quo, ruffling the feathers, doing things differently. It doesn't matter what area they're going in, whether it's phones, whether it's iPads, whether it's Apple TV. It doesn't matter for them. They will always want to challenge the status quo. So once you understand that, it's very easy then to go, okay, so how are we going to do that? Okay, we're going to develop an iPad that's very different, an iPhone that does this. We're going to look at all the different features and benefits. And then what actually comes out of it is a product. But how they try and sell to you is that you want to be part of Apple because you believe equally that it's an identity, it's part of your identity. So if you hold an Apple, it says something about your personality because they've communicated their why very, very well. So let's look at a couple of examples just to put it into action. So Apple's why is everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. Absolutely 100%, I agree with that. That is, they're staying true to their why. And notice that they don't talk about any product. They don't say we are a computer company. They don't say we develop phones. They could be anything. If you put your hand over Apple and read that out, you could be talking about any company. Southwest Airlines, we are the champion for the common man. So for those of you who don't know Southwest Airlines, they are more of an EasyJet kind of company, but that's a great statement. They are the ones that are going to be there for the common man who can afford it and give them a great service. But again, if you cover up that Southwest Airlines, you could be talking about any industry, but you understand what that company stands for. IKEA, to create a better everyday life for the many. Absolutely, I think they do that. And Colgate, always fascinates me, this one. They look for ways to help people feel more confident. Well, that must have taken a lot of brainstorming to get to that, because you just wouldn't have thought that that was Colgate. But when you think about it, you go, yeah, they actually do that. And it means that they can diversify and change their product, change their offering, but they can always stay true to their beliefs, their whys, their purpose. So let's talk about Harley Davidson. So Harley Davidson has 12% of their overall revenue comes from merchandising. Now just think about that for a moment. They're a motorbike company. They build, they sell motorbikes. But yet the people who believe in what they believe feel so passionately about the brand and the identity of what it means to have a Harley Davidson logo on your chest, or this crazy guy who's got it on his head, okay? They don't necessarily care about the bikes. For them, it's about identifying as Harley Davidson. And what does Harley Davidson mean? This guy's put it on the back of his head because he's trying to tell you, when you see him, I'm a pretty tough guy, okay? That's what I'm taking from it. I'm a pretty tough guy. I probably own a motorbike. I probably own a set of leathers. Don't mess with me, right? That's what I would take from him having a logo on the back of his head, right? And that's because Harley Davidson have focused so well on what it means to be associated with their brand. So I'm just going to stop sharing, and we're going to go over to a YouTube video. And okay, so this is an advert from the 1980s, and I want you to, before you watch it, I want you to sort of consider what I've just gone through very quickly and think about whether they are talking to you about a product, about a service, or whether they are simply talking to you about their why. So I'm going to play this now. And bearing in mind, this was 1984.
Today we celebrate the first to death, and we will bury them with their own confusion. We shall prevail.
On January 24th, Apple Computer will introduce Macintosh. And you'll see why 1984 won't be like 1984.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. Right, let me share this again. Right back to the PowerPoint screen. So normally we would have a little discussion about what we sort of found from that video, and I'd love to even do it on the chat, but I don't think we have enough time. And I'm super excited just to kind of carry on. But hopefully that proves the point. Throughout the whole video, they didn't tell you what they were really selling. It wasn't an advert about features and benefits and we've developed this new computer. What it was an advert about was a representation of us as people going through our daily lives, boring, 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 boring. And they showed us, you know, just going blah, 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 blah. And then this crazy woman with a 1980s hot pants on comes in with a sledgehammer. That represents Apple. She throws it at the screen. Everybody gets kind of released. And then at the end, the last 5 seconds, they say, do you know what? If you want to be like us, if you want to be like that woman who's a bit different and changes it and challenges the status quo, we've got something for you. This Macintosh is coming out in 1984. And if you're savvy enough and you feel connected to us through this advert, then guess what? 1984 won't be like any other year for you. Wow, that's an amazing kind of feeling. And they were doing that. Apple were doing that back in 1984 before Start With Why, Purpose, Know What Your Belief Is even came out. So it's a really good advert. And anyone wants to see it, I'm sure Gavin will share the link for the future. So let's see. Okay. So again, a very quick paced understanding of it's very important to know your why. It's very important to get your team on board with it so you all understand. It can't just be your why of why you want the golf club to be in a certain direction. You have to get people to be on board with it. Let's say you do the session, you know what your why is. How does that even help you as a business? Well, it helps you because it should make making decisions really, really easy. So I'm going to show you another video. So I'm going to close this. Oh, hang on. Sorry, technology. Close this. Right. There we are.
Now it's time to put your why into action. Discovering your why is just the beginning. In order to enjoy all the benefits of having a clearly articulated why, you'll need to have the courage and discipline to use it. Like Thomas Edison said, vision without execution is hallucination. There is an ideal order for implementing your why, though sometimes reality does get in the way, and it all starts with you. Our natural tendency is to start with the tangible. We define our value by what we do, so it takes practice to start with why. Like riding a bicycle, at first we're unsure, unsteady. We're in our heads thinking about all the things we need to do, pedal fast, keep enough speed so we don't fall over. We have to really concentrate. We may even fall over, even scrape our knees, but we get back on the bike and try again, and eventually it becomes natural. Starting with why is no different. At first, it feels awkward. It may not even work, but with practice, it will become so natural that you won't even be able to imagine a time when you couldn't do it, just like riding a bicycle. In time, your why will act as a filter for many of the decisions and choices you make. It becomes a tool to help you find a job or seize an opportunity in which you're more likely to succeed. It removes a lot of the guessing. Here's a metaphor to show you what I mean. It's called the celery test. We're constantly asking people for their advice on what to do or how to do it. It's like going to a dinner party and somebody says, "Do you know what you need? You need M&Ms. We've done so well with M&Ms, you've got to use M&Ms." Somebody else says to us, "Rice milk. In this economy, you have to use rice milk." Someone else says to us, "Kit Kats. You have to use Kit Kats." And somebody else says to you, "It's all about celery." We go to the supermarket with all this good advice from all these smart people with brilliant case studies, And we buy everything. We buy Kit Kats and M&Ms, celery and rice milk. There's a lot of time we spend at the supermarket and a lot of money we spend at the supermarket. And when we get to the checkout lane, we're standing there with all these products in our hands and no one can see what we believe because we bought everything. But let's imagine we know our why. Let's imagine our why is to always be healthy and only do things that protect the health of our bodies. Now which products do we buy? Given all the same advice from all the same smart people, this time we only buy celery and we only buy rice milk. They're the only two that make sense. We spend less time and less money at the supermarket. And when we're standing there in line with only celery and only rice milk, now people can see what we believe. Somebody walking past can say, hey, I can see that you're healthy, so am I. You just attracted an opportunity or a referral or a friend simply by saying and doing the things that you believe. And the best part is it's scalable. As soon as I said the why, you knew exactly which products we were going to buy. This means the more you can articulate your why, the more others will know what you stand for and will be able to help you make the right decisions. From now on, you will work to ensure everything you do is a good fit. If you do too many things that aren't a good fit, you'll feel uncomfortable and people will feel that you're being inauthentic. On the other hand, when you start with why, your ability to stand out, find support, and work to all your natural strengths will flourish. With practice, you will learn to trust your why. You will eventually start to see your does get in the way.
Sorry.
And it all starts with you. Your natural strengths will flourish. With practice, you will learn to trust your why. You will eventually start to see your job and the things you do as ways to breathe life into your cause. And the better you get at it, the more you will feel that your life and everything you do has purpose. The best way to implement your why is to work at it slowly. You don't have to do all the tips we suggest. What is important is that you pick up to 3 and commit to practicing and using them now.
Okay, great. So I find that really interesting because he talks about people giving you advice. And in the club world, wow, don't they like to give us advice in terms of members? Wow. I mean, they are knocking on our door every day saying, particularly this year because of COVID, they are knocking on our door saying, Amy, you must be having a tough year. I've been thinking about some ideas. Here's my 100-page list of all the things that I think you should do. Now, what's really good about what Simon's just talked about there is if I can clearly articulate to that member and say, do you know what, Bob, they're all really good ideas. And I'm not discrediting them, any of them, but they don't really fit with our direction because our direction is about members and it's about looking after them and their experience. So all your ideas about generating new income from weddings and other external people and putting this investment in to benefit the visitors that come to here, they don't quite match my vision and the vision of the club. So great ideas, but these 2 that you've come up with that completely focus on the members and the members' benefit and make them feel loved, I love them. Let me take on them. So it's a really good way of making a decision and taking the weight off your shoulders. But it's not easy. And I'll give you an example. Very recently, we're all going through COVID. And the number one thing I think most of us are honestly thinking about is money and finances. And we're thinking, how can we get the club through this year? And what does our financial forecast look for next year? Because, all right, we've got the fellow system, but next year we might not. And how are we going to bounce back? So when it came to the tier system, a few members were asking me about getting a marquee. I looked up marquees. I looked at the cost of them. You know, you're looking at about $5,000 to do it properly with lighting and with heating and to get a big enough one to actually accommodate a decent amount of people in their 6s. And honestly, I was wavering. I was thinking, I don't want to spend $5,000 because it's $5,000 that I might not have. And it doesn't feel right. And do I really need to? Do I really need to offer that service? Genuinely, I was thinking that. And then one night I was driving home and I was thinking, you are an absolute idiot. What is your why? What is your vision for the club? Let me just check that again. To enrich members' lives through an exceptional club experience. So why the hell am I not doing the marquee, you idiot? So I had a good chat with myself, and guess what? The next day we ordered the marquee, and it's been a revelation, and we haven't even used it yet. But all the members are like, oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much for doing it. It looks great. The heating looks fantastic. The lighting's brilliant. You've gone the extra mile for us. Thank you. Job done. But I was close to thinking about money rather than thinking about what my why was and what our belief as a club was. So hopefully that is of interest. Okay, now move on. There's a little poster that Simon does. It talks about what great leaderships do, and it talks about how you inspire action, you create a circle of safety, you tell the truth, you lead the people, not the numbers, like I tried to do with my marquee, and you choose to eat last, which is another book that he's done. So just before we move on to the turn the ship around, it's just a basic list, and it's probably something that you want to look back at and look at it, because I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. But as golf club managers, we've got a really difficult job, because we have to be a manager and a leader every day. And it's quite funny, because you hear stories of, you know, people leading clubs and you sort of go, why did they leave? And the members will go, oh, she wasn't very good at the admin. And you sort of think, okay, but she was really good, you know, at creating that buzz, and everyone loved her, but didn't quite do the admin very well. That says to me, what an amazing leader, but maybe the manager skills weren't great. Then you hear the other side. They spend an awful lot of time in their office. They're great at minutes. They do really good admin. Oh my goodness, it's like having a PA in the office. It's fantastic. But didn't really connect with them. They didn't really, a lot of people didn't really like them. That says to me, really good manager, maybe needs to work on the leadership skills. So my personal advice, and this is just literally just me being relatively humble, because Gavin asked me to share my thoughts. Be curious and ask questions. You can't ask enough questions of either your members, your board, or your staff. It's okay to show weakness. And not to play the sexist card, but guys, I do think that you probably lack this skill a little bit, where maybe the women do a bit better at it. I think it's just natural for women to be a bit like, oh, I'm rubbish. But I think you just need to show your weakness to your staff, to your board. It is okay to either not know the answer, to be struggling, or to sort of just say to your team, I made a mistake there. I have no idea why I made that decision. I'm really sorry. Or I snapped at you, or whatever. You just need to show your weakness. Bring yourself back to the reason you started, like my marquee example. Give praise and recognition. Deal with problems when you see them. Don't let them go over your head. Don't think that they're a small fry thing. If you walk past a problem, or you hear a conversation between two staff members, try and get yourself involved and deal with them. Chit chat is okay. Now, this was a real personal learning for me. When I was younger and very committed to I'm going to be a director of golf before I'm 30, I couldn't understand why people talked to each other and weren't working. Didn't get it. Because in my mind, it was about coming to work, smashing it out, being the best possible employee that you possibly could be, and being super efficient. I didn't get the water cooler talking. I didn't get the chit chat. I really didn't. And it was only probably in the last 5 or 6 years that I started to understand that the chit chat is actually probably one of the most important things. And I didn't get it before that, but the penny dropped for me. And I realized that actually conversation that's not related to work with your employees or your members or whatever is probably one of the most important things. And it is very difficult, and you are going to have staff. We've all done it. We've all had bosses where we're going, oh, what does he actually do? He just talks to people. He just plays golf with people. Don't get it. That was me. That was literally me. But I now start to understand that actually that is very important. Okay, massively moving away from start with why, and we're moving to turn the ship around. So it's a really good video. It's about 8 or 9 minutes long, but it is really engaging, and you get to not listen to my monotone voice anymore. Just to give you a little background on it, it's David Marquette. He was not commander, but whatever the equivalent is in the US Navy. And he'd been given a submarine. And when you're a commander in the US Navy, you get to know where you're going quite far in advance. So he was super diligent, and he got the engineering book of this submarine. He analyzed all the staff. He knew what was going on in that submarine before he first stepped in. So he was ready, he was prepped, everything was fine. He got a call about a week or two or something beforehand from his commanders, basically saying, I'm really sorry, but we've changed your ship. We've moved you to a different boat. And the boat that they'd moved him to, or the submarine they'd moved him to, was one of the worst performing submarines in the league table. It was doing really bad. The turnover for staff was just immense. It was the worst boat you could ever been given. So he'd been given the shortest straw ever. So this video is about how he dealt with that and what he ended up doing. So let me close this and then share.
I was trained for one submarine. My guys were trained to do what they were told. That's a deadly combination. We all know organizations where people just follow the leader into disastrous situations. So I got my guys together and I said, hey, we got a problem here. I was trained for another submarine. You're trained to do whatever nonsense comes out of my mouth. That's right, Captain. I mean, they knew. They already knew. I was pretty much talking to myself. So I said, what are we going to do? What are we going to do, guys? And we talked about it. Okay, what I really wanted to do was get ready for the inspection. But we were sitting in the wardroom. We spent a couple hours. We were talking about it. And we came up with all these different things. And, well, you Captain, you just got to be smarter. You got to give better orders. It's like, well, how am I going to learn a whole nuclear submarine, miles of valves and pipes? I spent a year learning Olympia, 2 weeks over here. So in a year, we'll be safe? That's not going to work. We had to deploy the submarine in 6 months. So we talked about it, and they said, okay, there's only one logical solution. We figured it out. You, they're pointing at me, you shut up. What do you mean? That's not what captains do. That's not what captains of nuclear submarines do. They walk around, they give orders. They sound like Russell Crowe. Head 2/3, dive, make it up 500 feet. Helm left 15 degrees weather, steady course 255. Load torpedoes and tubes 1, 2, 3, and 4. Flood down, open outer doors, right? And I thought about it. And you know what? They were right. So at that point, I vowed never to give another order. And if you came down on my submarine, it would have been very confusing, because you couldn't have pointed. It would have been hard to say, well, who's the captain here? Because you wouldn't have seen me giving orders. I did retain one order. The final order to launch a weapon, a torpedo or a missile, I kept with me, because I felt that since that was going to result in the deaths of other human beings, that I didn't want that on anyone's conscience but mine. That was my moral and ethical responsibility. But even though everything else in the Navy, there's long lists of things that says the captain has to authorize. Captain should authorize. You got a couple nukes in your group, they'll tell you it's true. Captain authorize, submerge the ship, get underway, start up the reactor, shut down the reactor, connect to shore power, divorce from shore power, on and on, break rig for dive, on and on and on, pages of these things. I just refused to give those orders. What we replaced it with was intent. Instead of giving instructions, if you want your people to think, don't give instructions, give intent. So they would come to you, hey, what do you want me to do? Well, left full rudder, steady course 255. No. I say, well, what are we trying to accomplish here today? Well, we're trying to get in position so that when the enemy submarine comes through, okay, so where do you think we should position the ship? Maybe over here. Good idea, go there. You give intent to them, and they give intent to you. So my officer stopped requesting permission. And every other submarine, Captain, request permission to submerge the ship. Submerge the ship. Submerge the ship, aye. On Santa Fe, Captain, I intend to submerge the ship. Very well. And they did it. And it might seem like it's a very small, nuanced change of language, but it was hugely powerful because the psychological ownership now shifts to them. They need to discover the answer. Otherwise, you're always the answer man. You can never go home and eat dinner. And so we started doing this. And it was hugely powerful. Actually, we went another step. Then I got smarter and I said, when the officer said, "Captain, I intend to submerge the ship," I would ask him, "Well, what do you think I'm thinking right now?" And he'd look at me, hard to tell. "I'm guessing you're wondering whether it's safe." Bingo! I said, "Well, convince me it's safe." He said, "Captain, I intend to submerge the ship. All men are below, hatches are shut, ship's rigged for dive. I checked the bottom deck. The submarine's in the water that's been assigned to us." Then later I would ask them, "Is it the right thing to do?" And they would say, "Well, yes, sir, because our mission requires that we..." And these are the two pillars that I think support this idea of giving control. These are the two pillars that need to be in place. The technical competence, which is represented by, is it safe? And the organizational clarity, which is represented by, is it the right thing to do? And you put those things in place, and then you can give control, and you give control, and you put those things in place. And you are off to the races. So think about what's happening now. My officers are starting to think like me, because I have to think like, where should we do the ship? And so the guys below them. Now this took 24 hours to happen. It took a couple years for the full implementation, but immediately there was change. The officers started thinking like me, and so pretty soon I could go in the engine room, find the engine room lower level watch who was taking logs in the lube oil pumps, and he would know what the submarine was doing. He would know whether we were up tight, close to the enemy, and it was time to stay quiet, or whether we had backed out a little bit, and this may be a good time to change filters and make a little bit of noise. A year later, we received another inspection. A year later, we received an inspection. The inspecting team gave us the highest grade they had ever seen. Not that year, not in the Pacific, ever seen. Why? I mean, this crew had a captain who was a dummy. It's because that needle started moving up. And on another submarine, there was one guy in charge, one guy giving orders, one guy thinking, and 134 people doing what they're told. I don't care how smart you are. On my submarine, I got 135 thinking, active, passionate, creative, proactive, taking initiative people. It's a tidal wave. You don't stand a chance. Here's the solution. Move the authority to where the information is. You mean the software engineer can decide whether we ship the software? Yeah. You mean the client, my salesman can close the deal? Well, up to $1,000. No. Yes. Whatever the price? Yes. What does it take to make that happen? Now, if you're picturing a lot of people out there doing crazy things and a bunch of arrows going in a bunch of different directions, you have the wrong picture. You create the environment so that those people are out there making decisions as if the CEO were standing right behind them. And if it's not the same decision, it's actually a better decision because they have the information. And not only will you get better speed of execution, because now you don't have this delay, what happens is those people feel like they matter because they're thinking. You engender thinking. You create the environment for thinking. The secret is nothing I said is hard. There's nothing hard. The only thing that's hard is you. It will feel wrong. You've been genetically and culturally programmed to take charge and make it happen. Take control and attract followers. And what you want is to give control and create leaders. It will feel wrong, and you will repeatedly start down this path if you so choose, and then you'll be angry at yourself like I was. And you will have a failure, and you'll go back to the old ways. And you will pick yourself up, and you will go again. You will go again. And by doing so, you will achieve the greatest thing possible. You will have achieved greatness, not because of the deeds and acts that you did, but because you set an environment where the people around you and their families and their schools and their organizations and their businesses, they've achieved greatness. That will be the greatest thing of all. Go forth and be great.
Okay. So let me just, sorry. I need to close that down. That's our last video and share back to this. Again, when we were together in a room, or if we had a bit more time, we would use the chat function and talk about our learnings from that video, because there was so much content in there. If I can suggest anything, is to get that video from Gavin, have it, it's 9 minutes, watch it once a month, because one of the big things that he talks about at the end is it's not difficult to do, it's just hard genetically for us to do it. And again, talking about my personal experience, when I worked really hard to get to the position where I got to. Once I got there, there is definitely an element of that ape, of that I'm now in charge, I have the control, I can make the decisions. I don't have anybody telling me what to do anymore, blah, 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 blah. So to turn the control to people who are in your team, who absolutely know more information than you, particularly when I first started, it's really hard. It's really, really hard. And you will go up and down. And that's why I love this video. And that's why I love delivering the session, because it helps me as well, because it reminds you, it presses the reset button on your brain to remember that actually it's not about you. It's not about you harping instructions. It's not about you creating the why. It's about your team. And it's about looking after them and making sure that they matter, because you're telling them, or you're asking them, well, what do you think? And it's probably one of the most powerful, I think, questions that you could ask someone. What do you think? And also, it's so natural to have somebody come into your office, and it happens day after day after day. They come into your office and they say, Amy, so-and-so, something's happened. What shall I do? And do you know what? When you're having a busy day, when you're having those moments where you're going, do you know what? It's a simple fix. In your mind, it's a simple fix. Your experience, you've been there time and time again. They walk into your office with a problem and you know the answer straight away. So what you do is you go and do this, this, and this, and go and do that, and then go and tell that person. And they go, great, fine. You're doing that person a disservice, because they haven't had to think about it. They haven't improved as a person. You're making them even more lazy, or making them lazy. You're continuing the habit. Instead, what you should do, come and sit down. Talk me through the problem. Well, what do you think? What's the outcome? What are we looking to get here? What do you think we should do? If we did that, what do you think is going to happen? What are the downsides? What's the worst thing that can happen based on what you've just said? Great, you've got your solution. Go for it. That's what we should be doing. But it is difficult. It's the coaching side of our job. And it is really, really hard. And I do not get it right all the time. If I get it right 50% of the time, then I'm doing an amazing job. But I can guarantee you that not many of us in this industry get it right. There are a very few amount of people that understand this concept and deliver it. And they won't even be getting it 100% right. So that was a little thing. So just finishing off then, because hopefully we've got enough time for a little bit of a Q&A to unmute everybody. For those of you who want to know my story, but I think from the people that we've got on, I think most people are already in positions, but this is my story. I started at the Belfry booking tea times. I then went through the sales kind of route, which was kind of unheard of at that time. You were still becoming general managers if you were a golf pro, a food and beverage manager, operational side of things. You didn't really come through the sales route. I very much did. And I got really lucky at Golf at Goodwood. The operations manager left, and I uncharacteristically put my hand up and said, I think I can do both. I think I can do sales, and I think I can do operations. So less payroll for them. They took the risk on me becoming assistant manager. And as soon as I theoretically got that generic managerial title on my CV, then I was able to then progress that. But anyway, I don't like talking about myself. So I guess back to Gavin, if anyone has any questions or answers. Sorry that you've very much been spoken to. We wouldn't normally do that. I'd like it to be more interactive, but there we go. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you very, very much indeed from myself. I'm sure from everybody in the room. So yeah, absolutely. I think we shall open the floor now. You can absolutely put your videos on and unmute yourselves, and we can take any questions. There's not so many of us on the call that I think we can't maintain a certain amount of order between ourselves. And we also have another board member from the GCMA on the call, Judy Barker, who will also be able to chip in with some good advice, hopefully at an appropriate time. So absolutely open the floor now to questions for Amy. The time is 10:25, so we'll certainly give this 10 or 15 minutes. As long as everyone's got time, we've got time for you. So fire away. And who's first up with a question? Paul. I saw Paul's hand go up.
Hi, Gavin. Hi, Amy. Amy, thank you very much. That was truly inspiring. That was absolutely brilliant. Thank you. I'm sure I say that on behalf of everyone here. Amy, what's your opinion on incentivizing staff? Is that a good method to try and improve performance and get the best out of the team members? I shouldn't say staff. I suppose that's not the best of terms. Yeah, what's your opinion on that?
I'd like to think you wouldn't have to, but people are motivated differently. So the way I'm coming from a sales background and typically always been incentivized, for me, it was a nice benefit, but actually what meant more to me was my boss thinking I was doing a good job, having a certain amount of control, feeling like I mattered. So for me, I think if you've got all of that, if you've got the whole, your staff feel that you matter, they matter, they've got control, they feel like they're part of the change, you're not being autocratic, that whole thing, if you get that, then they shouldn't be going, oh, I think I should get some commission, I think I should get that. I also do find it's a bit of a millennial thing as well. I've got a member of staff who's a bit of the whole University of Bournemouth thing and University of Birmingham thing. Unfortunately, it's a really great course, but I do think they come out of that with a slight sense of entitlement. And it's not because of them. I think it's because of the way they've been told at university that they will jump into an operational managerial position and they will become general managers in 2 or 3 years. So I think it's a bit of a millennial thing as well, but I've got one guy who's on an incentive. He's my membership manager, but it's not a great amount.
Thank you very much.
Good question. Who's next? Peter Job from sunny Newcastle.
Not today. It's not Gavin.
Surprisingly.
What I was going to ask is, what is the GCMA? Why?
Good question. Well, I know Tom, obviously our incoming CEO, he's getting his feet under the table, and he's a big promoter of Start With Why. And so he is doing sessions at the moment. He's already done a session with the team, I believe, Gavin.
Correct. Yeah.
Why. He's doing one with the regional managers, or I think he did that yesterday or maybe the day before. And he's got one with the board, poor sod. I think tomorrow, Judy and I have got a session. So I think it's a great question. We need to be able to answer it. We don't know the answer yet, but hopefully in the next week or so we will.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Anybody else? You'll put your hand up. There you go. Paul Kerwin.
Hi, Amy. Thanks for that. Echoing Paul's points, it was fantastic. I'm very new to the golf industry, and I just wanted to touch on something you mentioned about when a member came into you and you were explaining how did it match your vision and the club's vision. Something I'm looking at our golf club is implementing a strategic plan. And I just wanted to ask if that's something you've gone through before, And also, how did you get membership buy-in, and how did you track your success through the years of implementing that plan?
Yeah, Paul, I'm more than happy if you can get my email address, or if I can get your email address. When I first started, we went through the why bit. So it's always important, you've got to start there. And I communicated that through 2 or 3 different forums to members. We had about 80 people turn up to each one. And I basically just said, this is our why. You don't really understand it. I'm not expecting you to understand it. It's very fuzzy. But these are the short-term projects that we're going to do that match that why. And these are the long-term projects that we're going to do to match that why. They will forget about it. They will come into your office and try and take you off course. But it's really good. I had one. So I started in 2018. So 2 years later, I had a member come into me, and he actually asked me, Amy, can you tell me what the vision is for the club? And it was really great, because I was able just to go, here's the video that I filmed of the members forum on YouTube. Our vision still stands. It's to do this. Here are our short-term projects, which we've pretty much done all of them. And here are our long-term projects, which we're working on. And we were able to turn around to him and say, everything still stands. We have not changed our vision. And that's really important. That's why it's so important to get your vision right, because you need to stick to it for quite some time.
Thanks.
Craig's laughing. What are you laughing at, Craig?
So Emma in Bordeaux is liking me to Clark Gable with my moustache. I was just replying to her. I was paying attention, honestly.
I'd agree. I would agree. If you have a question, you've got to give it in an accent.
Inspector Clouseau style.
We have Jeremy.
Yeah, I just wanted, on that same point, Amy, to ask you whether that why or that vision came from you, or in conjunction with I know Moore Park quite well, in conjunction with the committee, or whether it was their vision which you had to implement, because
how do we get there?
That's challenges that I think at private members clubs always exist. Who is actually providing that vision in the first place?
Yeah, so it was probably 2 or 3-fold. So when I first got there, you do your normal thing where you have your meetings with all your staff, you have your meetings with all your board, you get a feel for it, you look at the previous members' surveys, you sit in the bar and have a chat with a lot of members, and you get a feel for what they're wanting. And at the point of that, I was getting feedback from members that were basically saying, I don't feel like this is my club anymore. We've got too many weddings. I can't even get a car parking space when I turn up on a Saturday morning, blah, 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 blah. I took that feedback. I then looked at the financial side of things. Well, okay, is the wedding market actually on a decline or an incline? Do we have the physical services and facilities to actually deliver a wedding experience that's really, really good? Or would that make an investment? So I took it ended up being five-year plans to the board. And I said, I don't mind which way we go. This is where I'd like to go, but I can go commercial if you want me to. But if you want to go commercial, I can tell you that your members are not going to be terribly happy about that, but subs will remain low. But we do need to invest £150,000 into our wedding offering, because it's not great. The chairs need doing, the centerpieces need doing, the tablecloths, cutlery, etc. So I gave the board the autonomy to pick what option they wanted to go. But of course, they're members. So I knew what I wanted, and I knew kind of the reaction I was going to get from the board, because why would they pick for their experience to go backwards and for the club to go commercial? So I kind of knew what game I was playing in that regard. So they sort of picked it, and then I could go to the members and say, look, this has come from the staff, this has come from your feedback, and it's been approved by the board, and this is what we're going to do.
Okay, thank you very much.
I've got a question, Gav.
Yeah, fire away, Craig.
Amy, thanks for that brief. It was great. I've just got a query regarding being a manager facing customers, where the members may be expecting to have that service provided to them. What's the best mechanism you've found for taking their feedback and either dealing with it or ignoring it in the most tactful way, if you like, but ensuring that the members feel that they're being heard?
I've tried a lot of different things. I think when I first started, I tried to tick boxes. And by that, I mean, I created an online feedback form We had a suggestions book, and you know, we tried to be seen to be taking on feedback, just so I could turn around and go, oh, we do give the opportunity to give you feedback, you know. But in reality, was I really taking it on board? Yeah, some of it. We do work with 59 Club, and we do use the survey thing. And when it was pre-COVID, we would send out a survey to a selected group. We called them their sort of the vision volunteers, because we were starting to change the vision. So we sent them a survey every month asking the same 10 questions. So we had at least something measurable that I could at the end of the year say to the board, we're 8.8 in service, we're 9 in food or whatever. But what COVID has taught me is there is nothing better than being on the shop floor talking to members. Yeah. And giving them that time. And it is, again, really difficult, because we've got to balance the fact that we've got health and safety risk assessments and lots of stuff, and all the admin and our staff that are the most important thing. But the biggest uplift in the way the members have felt loved is because I've had the opportunity this year to be down there and talking to the members, and then they just talk to me, and I just give them my opinion. And sometimes I'm in a feisty mood and I want to give them a bit back, and sometimes I'm in a mood where I just go but both times they feel like they've been listened to.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's kind of from that video you just played as well, you know, having the members know exactly what the club's direction is going to be a really good thing. So how you communicate that, and it could be a multitude of different ways, could be so valuable.
Yeah, the hardest thing, which would be the question that I would ask, the hardest thing is the speed of change. Because for us, we've increased our membership fees by 10% for the last 3 years. And we've communicated our vision, and we've told them the journey we're going on, and they get it and they're with us. But 2 or 3 years on, they expect us to be here, and we're still getting there. And for us, we understand that things take time to change. They're not as patient. We know that. So again, it's just trying to remain resolved in that what you're doing is the right thing, keeping your staff motivated, don't deflate yourself. You're doing some really great things. Each year, you write down what you've done and you go, actually, we have moved the needle. It's just not moving as quick as the members want. But that's a difficult challenge no matter what situation you're in.
Thank you.
Good. I don't see any hands going up at the moment. Shall we just have a quick review of the poll, see how that went? Okay, so everybody can see the results, hopefully. A leader who wins at all costs, extra point for anybody spotted the spelling mistake. I think we all know a world leader who's on his way out that would sort of fit that one. Not the modern style of leadership I would recommend. The big scorers are at the bottom. A leader generates organizational change and personal transformations, very popular, the most popular. A leader who can interweave competing personal and organizational objectives. These suggestions have come from Rook and Tolbert. It's a book done by them, well worth a read. It's 7 actions of leadership. So that's just some ideas from them. So I think, but those are sort of the best answers were the 2 at the bottom, and by them and by you. So obviously a group here, Amy, who do know a little bit about leadership. So yeah, that was interesting. So I think unless there are any more questions for Amy, we shall draw the session to a close. Any final? Amy's just put her email address up on in the chat box for anybody who wants to contact her directly. Well, I think that's just remains from all of us to give you a very, very big thank you, Amy, for your time this morning. As we know, you are very, very busy. So you know, that was fantastic, and thanks for taking the time to talk to us on that this morning. So the next course, as you will know from the opening slide, is the Principals course on the 7th to 11th of December. If you or someone you know would like to sign up for that, please contact me, gavin@gcma.org.uk. We shall be continuing the Essential Leadership Skills course in January of next year. So we look forward to seeing perhaps Judy on that occasion, and hopefully we'll count on your support for that as well. So just a big thank you to everyone for joining us this morning, and we'll keep in touch.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
excellent.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Let's
Take
go.
care. Bye for now.